right, welcome everyone to the first episode of the talk show with Tina O. This is a live, unscripted show, it's going to go whichever way it's going to go, and we are not PC, and it is a curse-friendly show. So if you're sensitive, then you might want to change the channel. But if you want to hear some real talk from four badass women, then you've come to the right place. I'm Tina Ojagian. I'll be your host. I'm going to pass it on to my beautiful panelists to do a brief intro, tell us who you are, what you do, and what moves you.
Hi everyone, my name is Gaina Karajian. I am a bankruptcy and employment law attorney. I also do mediation and mediation consulting in those fields. And I have offices in LA and OC. And I'm just so honored to be at the inaugural Tina O show and be surrounded by badass women in law.
Welcome. Karina is being modest. She's actually a lot more badass than that. She's done big law, broken off, she's got her own practice now. She runs this really successful clubhouse, heels and law and stilettos every Tuesday that is super informative. She's had up to 100 people, 150 people join her chats. And so if you're not in Clubhouse, you should check it out. I checked it out for the first time this week and it was amazing. Michelle, tell us about you.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Fonseca. I am the founder and principal attorney at West Coast Lemons, a law firm that specializes in California law.
Awesome. And she is amazing. Why are you guys being so short and modest with your intro?
Your IG reels are bold. The TikTok video.
Yes. We're going to talk about redundancy in attorney marketing and copycat syndrome and not being your authentic self, and you fly in the face of that. I love what you're doing. I think it's so fun and interesting to watch, yet informative. That's important. It's just not all fluff, and I really appreciate that. I hand it over to you guys to introduce yourselves because I figured you know yourselves better than I do, but you're giving us this like generic, tell us how awesome you are. Armine, you.
Hi everyone, I'm Armina. I'm an estate planning certified specialist based out of LA. I'm a mom of 2 little kids, and I'm also an entrepreneur in addition to having my own law firm. I also have a secondary passion project that I am the CEO of.
Amazing. Armine is my estate planning attorney. Can we turn that off, please? Thank you. Armine is my estate planning attorney, and I have to tell you, I'm the oldest one in the room. However, whenever I have one of these meetings with her, I feel like the teenager, and she's the parent talking sense into me because she's so on it and awesome and responsible, and I love her. And so it's really great to have you on the show. Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit about me. I'm Tina Ojagian. I'm the principal of Ojagian Law Group in Woodland Hills. I do catastrophic injury litigation. I started a nonprofit called Brain SoCal, which is dedicated to educating attorneys and doctors in the brain injury community. I sit on the board of UCLA Neurosurgery. I'm a brain nerd. I'm also the mommy to 2 beautiful boys, and in my spare time, I love to snuggle with my boys and make fun fashion reels for you in my closet. So that's a little bit about me. Let's start off easy, guys, okay? A lot of our viewers and a lot of the folks that reached out when they heard about the show, this is not a legal webinar. If you want to gain legal knowledge, sign up for the Brain SoCal conference in October. This is just kind of a lifestyle show. We're just going to be really honest and uncensored about what our life as a mommy, wife, entrepreneur, attorney looks like every day. So let's start off easy. A lot of the folks that are watching are either new attorneys, been in practice for a while at a firm, thinking of going out on their own, or just law students, and kind of want to see what they're in for in the future. And so let's start out by talking about, being prepared. And Armin, I know you're big on this, and knowing how to ask for help and when to ask for help and being tactful when you're looking for mentorship or guidance. Armin, why don't you kick us off with that?
Yeah, I think if I could go back and give some advice to the younger self straight out of law school, I would say networking should not be overlooked. I think with law school, they teach you how to prepare for the actual courses, but they don't do a great enough job of teaching you how to be in the business to promote yourself. I think in addition to promoting your business, you first need to learn how to promote yourself and present yourself to the public, to other attorneys, to other non-attorney professionals. So if I could go back and give myself one piece of advice for all the law students or new grads that are out there, is if you're interested in any field of law, reach out to the professionals in that field that you're aspiring to be like or that you look up to, but do it in a very professional way. I know that we're all about TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and you can easily access.
Today, by the way, I saw your reel yesterday. I'm so proud of you. That shit was so funny. I love it. Come on.
I'm glad it entertained another elder millennial.
I wish I was a millennial. I'm a couple of generations older than that, but it's okay.
But yeah, like I think social media makes people accessible to you, but that does not necessarily mean that it's free reign to just DM them and ask them all these questions. A lot of times I think it's good to be aware that the social media accounts, even though they're run by the professional, there's also other people that are looking at the account. There's also people checking the DMs. Like my staff has access to my DMs, so they might overlook a message that I get from a young professional attorney who wants to reach out to me. So for me personally, I don't know about you ladies, but for me personally, I love it when somebody goes the extra mile, researches your email, right? It's very easy to find on the California State Bar's website. Go out of your way, find the professional's email, send them a nicely worded email that's very authentic and that basically cuts to the chase of, hey, I'm new, I'm interested in estate planning, what should I do? I think it's always great to leave the question open-ended because you don't want to obligate that person to mentor you. We're all kind of crazy busy, and when you spring on the professional like, hey, will you be my mentor? It's always an awkward question, and your response that you get is never going to be the way that you want that response to be. So I think if leaving that proposal of what you're putting out there to be very open, you're going to get more help. I'm going to respond and say, yes, read this and this book, go to this seminar, go to this other event, reach out to me if you have questions about what you're learning. All of us have very busy schedules. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but I can't mentor like 30 people. And I don't know about you guys, but it's probably
we should run a camp. We should run a mentorship. Yeah. See, I told you she's a parent, right? Okay, now I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Look, go to the State Bar website, look up the email. No one checks their email anymore. Everyone's on social media all the time. I guess, look, I don't mind the DMs. I will oftentimes give out my cell number and they can text me. And if I get to it, I get to it. And I try to be as accessible as possible. But I respect what you're saying. And there's definitely like a decorum and a way to go about asking for help. And just like trolling someone's IG and making a comment here or there or putting them on the spot, is not the way to go about it for sure.
And I would add to that to also just good follow-up etiquette, right? Because there have been so many times where I mentor somebody, I take a lot of my time to go through everything. I even give templates and stuff like that. And at the end of it, you don't even get a thank you to that email that you sent with all the templates. And, it could be something as simple as a very nice email or even better, a handwritten thank you note. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. You don't have to get gifts. Write a thank you note, send it over, thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah. And that really goes a long way because then down the line, if you're looking for an intern, have an opening, or a friend of yours is looking for somebody, you're going to say, I remember so-and-so had good manners.
Yeah. How are we liking working from home, guys?
I love it.
I mean, other than I'm not a cat, my kid running in on live depots to tell me that he pooped, I am loving it. I love the fact that I don't have to drive anywhere. I can spread all of my evidence out when I'm taking a cross-examination, find what I need, when I need, rather than being confined to this little space after a 3-hour drive or flight to Oakland. But how are you guys adapting to it?
I love it. I love my home office. And even before COVID, I prefer to work from my home office. I don't have typical office hours. I only go to my physical offices if I have to meet a client there. So
with the exception of remote trials?
Not in my world, we don't do that much. Yeah, but yeah, it's good. And our hearings, a lot of our hearings are telephonic completely. They don't even see you, so you're in PJs.
Oh my God, I do that too. We went on the record the other day. It was really awkward. It was this older judge, didn't have Zoom accessibility, and asked if we can do it on the phone. And then he started swearing in my first witness, and in comp we can do that because they're bench trials. And I said, Your Honor, with all due respect, like, how do I know he's raising his right hand right now? Like, what? This is, you know.
They just attest
So,
to it, yeah.
that's how you gotta take my word for it. But for the most part, I'm loving the remote. How about you, Michelle? How's it going down in the South Bay?
It's good. It's good. I actually just got a new puppy in December, so it's made working from home, you know, that much better. He's a silver lab. He's a little over 4 months now, so it's nice for me just working from home because he's got his own little chair in my home office that he sleeps on, you know, while I'm working. But the only issue is sometimes he doesn't want mama talking to other people on the phone. So when I'm on the phone, he'll start barking or he'll be completely quiet. But the second, you know, the phone rings and I'm talking to someone other than him, you know, he's like, mom, you know, come cuddle me. I'm like, okay. So it's practice for, you know, having a future family for me because he's all in there.
That's really cute. Mine's the opposite. My 6-year-old is in school. I refer to my kids as my little puppies because they are. I smush and squish them as though they are. But my 8-year-old is homeschooling. And so I'm that obnoxious mom that'll run in the middle of the class session and say, give me Lippy, and just put one on him. And all of his classmates will see and his teacher will see and I'll be like, Mom, cut it out. Stop. But I love that. And I know a lot of people are bitching about homeschooling. And I get it. It is a pain in the ass to like be running a depot in one room, have your kid in school in the other room, and like cook in the kitchen. But at the same time, I think when he goes back to school, I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss having him here, you know? But that's really cute. So look, it's COVID. A lot of our colleagues are either, you know, I shouldn't say a lot of them, but a good number of them, either folding up shop or they're downsizing. You know, big prominent firms are laying off attorneys. I know some of us are doubling down and expanding, and you know, cheers to that. Cheers to that.
Cheers, and cheers to your show.
Thank you, baby. Thank you for joining us. I wish you guys were here so you can have a sip of this. You know I don't drink, but I'm making an exception today.
Me too. This is probably the first sip of alcohol I've had in over a year.
Amazing. Sorry.
No, it's good.
Okay.
It's good fun.
So here's the question. Is it a good time for attorneys to hang up a shingle and go out on their own? I mean, obviously they've got the requisite experience and so forth, but is it a good time? Like economically speaking, you know, everything going on right now. Is this the time to hang up your shingle?
I think this depends on your practice area, in large part. As far as if you're gonna be looking for office space, this is probably an optimal time to get very cheap rent or work out very good deals, or go to like a virtual kind of space. I think that as long as you keep your overhead really low, you don't really run a risk. If you have enough savings, like if you're leaving the stable job and you have savings, go for it. I think it's a time to be creative and you can negotiate a lot of things to be a lot lower than you normally would.
Armine, what do you think?
My answer is that it's always a good time to go off on your own.
Cheers.
If you have an idea of possibly going off on your own, the sooner you do it, the better. That's just my opinion, regardless of COVID.
I agree with you. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. I've got a firm, I mentor a lot of young folks coming through, and I can tell pretty quickly if they're going to be a good fit to grow my firm down the road or if not. And the minute I feel like they're not, I kind of lose usually. And so, you know, there is something to be said for folks who don't necessarily know what it entails to be in practice for yourself. It isn't easy. A lot of us make it look easy. And so if there is aptitude for growth where you're at, and if you like where you're at, there's nothing wrong with growing with the team and being a part of the team if you're invested and if you see a future there, right? So we're not discouraging anyone from doing that. We're just saying, you know, if you're at a dead end job where you feel like you're not being given the opportunities, then, you know, it's always a good time to leave. COVID, no COVID, whatever's going on.
And I think that's the important thing to say, like when there is opportunity to grow and when the bosses you're working for appreciate you,
Yeah.
and let you grow, let you put your name on pleadings, let you go, you know, participate in depots and trials and stuff like that, instead of just pushing paper all day, where you grow resentful and
Right.
you're just like, I don't even care if there's a steady paycheck, but it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Michelle, what do you think? You just recently went out on your own, or you've been doing this for a while. You've been on your own for a while, yeah?
No, today's actually my law firm's 1-year anniversary, so I made it through year one.
I start getting loopy by the end of this podcast. You'll know why.
But yeah, I went out on my own exactly a year ago, and it was crazy because when I made the jump, I didn't know we were going to plunge into a global pandemic. So that was, definitely a wrench in the plan. And I'm a big planner too. So I had, really had my, systems and processes. I had my website, I had everything planned out, my budget ready to go to get me through those first couple months because everyone said, it's going to take a while to start making money. So you need to be financially ready to make that jump. And it's not really about whether you're going to make it. It's about, just getting through that tough time before you get paid. And so I personally think COVID is a fantastic time to go out on your own, especially now that virtual law firms, it's the norm now. You don't need some big fancy office. You don't need all this overhead.
Although I'm seeing a big fancy office behind you. What is this situation? I'm loving it.
It's a shared office space that I use. So it's nice because I really just run my law firm out of my guest room. So we turned the guest room at my house into my little law firm, and that's home base, and that's where I do everything. If I do need to meet with clients, I can take them to a shared space, and it's way less expensive. And honestly, I've learned clients don't care about the fancy stuff. They just want you to listen to them and care about their case. And that's really what's going to take you far in your business is, putting in the work and caring and having the right intention behind your business. And so I made it through the first year. I learned a lot, but I definitely, if anyone's thinking about it, go for it.
Congratulations to you. I wasn't going to go down this next path, but what the hell? We're being honest. We're sharing knowledge. I think it's important. I want to disclaim this by saying, Bob Simon, Reza Torek, love you guys. You're awesome. But let me just ask the question, right? Justice HQ, LawWorks, right? Are they helpful and for new attorneys to get out there and, hang up a shingle and cut their costs? Are they just a glorified Fijian suite? Do they fuck with your brand identity, or are they helpful to you?
They've been helpful to me. So it's allowed me to stay independent. So I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I basically just utilize, the members when I need to and the spaces as I need to. So it's actually been a huge support system for me because when I went out on my own in February, I didn't know anyone in the legal industry. Like I can guarantee no one here knew who I was a year ago.
I don't believe that for a second. Watching your Instagram, since I don't meet random people on IG, but that's how you caught my attention. So you don't give yourself enough credit, but.
Yeah, but I wasn't on Instagram myself when I was an attorney on my own. I had like 290 followers. I was private. I didn't put myself out there. I'm actually really reserved. So putting myself out there for the business has been, definitely uncomfortable for me. But having that backup, having people to talk to, as a solo practitioner, if there's a victory, it's like me and my husband, like, yeah. The case. And I have someone to talk to, or if something went wrong. And I know for a lot of new solos, that's really scary. If something comes up and you don't know what to do, who are you going to call? Who's going to help you? Because they're not getting paid on the cases that you have.
After this panel, they're going to be calling us, but yeah.
Yeah. And, I didn't really understand the social media world before I went out on my own. So I didn't see all these amazing people that I could feel comfortable reaching out to that I would now. And so for me, Justice HQ was a really good network of people to kind of just cheer me on, support me, and help me, when things came up. If I randomly had a case in federal court and I don't really practice in federal court, I can just message some of the members. And it was nice to be able to have a network of people that were actually kind and genuine and wanted to help you because, walking into some Cala networking event, it's scary and it's cliquey out there. So I don't think that I would necessarily
this profession has become very, unfortunately, God, I hate to say it, but it's true. But that's a really cool perspective. I don't know, I'm on the fence. I gotta tell you, like I am really big on individuality and building a brand that's identifiable and different from everyone else's. And I always wonder about, or worry about brand identity and diluting it when you go under the umbrella of one of these, one of these I don't want to call them glorified WeWorks because I don't quite understand exactly what it provides. And so, Armina, I want to get your 2 cents on this because I know you're solo, you know, and you feel pretty strongly about your independent brand identity as well.
You know, I'm on the fence too. I think there's good and there's bad with organizations like that that are willing to put up the cost of all of the miscellaneous operating things that a new person who went off on their own would otherwise be responsible for. But at the same time, I think there's just ways for you to also have that same benefit without joining an organization like that. So I think it's fine, it's good, and it's a positive thing for people that are just going off on their own and they don't have a wide network of attorneys and they don't have the resources to be able to have their own office and whatnot. So those perks seem to be really great for somebody newly out there. But I think there are things that you can also work towards achieving on your own without compromising your brand identity. So that I'm kind of on the fence because I don't know much about what it is that they provide as a service other than an umbrella of network, I guess a network of attorneys that you can kind of throw things around or ideas. I think you can accomplish that on your own. It's just going to be harder to do. So to eliminate that stress of component of the business aspect of it, I think it's good for somebody who doesn't want to deal with the business operations side of having their own practice and the logistics.
Right.
So I think it really depends on your personality. If you're someone who's hyper focused on the law and don't like the business aspect of having your own firm, under an umbrella like that would probably be really good because you could probably get referrals from the other attorneys and whatnot. But if you enjoy the business aspect of it, like personally, I love the business aspect of my practice. I love running my firm. I love doing things like that.
Sorry, there was a delay. You paused.
I'm done.
I love seeing stuff like this.
Michelle, do you think clients are confused? Meaning, like, you know, there's all these different firms under the umbrella. Let's just say either LawWorks or Justice HQ. At some point, are they like, wait, who's what? What's what? Do you feel like maybe, I don't know. You tell us, since you're a Justice HQ member, you've got more knowledge on this.
Honestly, I've never had, most of my clients don't even know I'm a Justice HQ member. It's completely separate. Like I've got my own website. I've run my own business. Honestly, you know, it's been more for the network. As far as the business setup, I've done everything myself. So
Wow.
I've done my own PR. I do my own marketing. I do everything. I mean, I'm a true
Okay. That's amazing.
It doesn't get confused.
Yeah, I think I'm on the fence too. I think I could see how it would make sense to go to do something like that for the network more than the office space and stuff, because office space, like I have an office space in Anaheim and Irvine for like $200 a month, virtual, beautiful space, beautiful conference rooms, whatever. So I think that people do it probably a lot more for the network, and if it works for you, then amazing. It just depends on personality type. So me, I was like Michelle, like prior to opening my firm, I didn't even have a Facebook, I didn't have an Instagram, I was not social at all. And then I kind of had to get out of my comfort zone. And what I built is really amazing friendships out of getting out of that comfort zone. So how have I met you? Social media. How have I met Michelle?
Yeah.
Armina, I had met like through watching her videos, and then I met her at another attorney's event, Christina Malyan, who's one of my closest friends and a badass attorney. And again, I met her on Facebook. Right. So get out of your comfort zone a little bit, but still be authentic, right? Like I don't put anything on the web that doesn't feel authentic to me. So I mix my personal life with my business life. You're gonna get to see my shoes, you're gonna get to see my crafts, you're gonna get to see my law, because that's who I am. I don't take myself too seriously. And clients really appreciate that. And also clients don't care. Well, depends on what field you are. In the field of bankruptcy and employment law, for example, clients don't care if I'm in a penthouse. Clients care that they can talk to me directly when they're dealing with a very stressful situation.
I completely agree with you. You brought me to my next point, which is like this rat race and the copycat game in the social media, right? For marketing for attorneys. And I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me and said, you know, these fashion reels that you do, they're kind of like silly and they're not really attorney-like. And, or, you know, what kind of message are you sending? Why are you doing this? You know, and so everything is from the standpoint of, you know, what can we do to, you know, market? And then you look at these social media profiles, and you can't tell them apart because they're like fucking identical. So, look, my social media platform is not a marketing platform per se. It is a platform for me to share everything about my life. And that isn't just legal. I mean, I love food, I love fashion, I love spending time with my family. So if you're offended by any of those things, you probably shouldn't be on page. But, my feeling is if you're authentic and if you're true to yourself and you're putting out content, I do my own social media content at 3 a.m. because I don't want to relinquish control. I wanted to say what I wanted to say. Yes. I don't want someone drafting shit for me that doesn't make sense that they pulled out of, the internet quotes dictionary. But, I want it to feel authentic and true. And my feeling is if you do that, your followers will pick up and relate with you enough to feel comfortable coming to you should they have legal, needs down the road. So I'm a catastrophic injury attorney. That's really heavy. I take care of people when they're, at the lowest point in their lives. I'm part of their support system. I appreciate that. And so you'll see things on my page about, the support groups I run for them, or, the nonprofit I run that's not really related to my firm. And that's okay. But on the weekend, you'll also see cute pictures of me cuddling with my kids, because that's very much a part of my life and what feeds my soul. And so for these new attorneys going out, I would say, share content that is real, first of all. I mean, as real as you can get for social media, but, and is true and is, if you're sharing results and stuff about what you're doing in your workplace, make sure that they're actually your results. And, and I'm sorry that I even have to say this, but there have been instances where, cases have been referred and results have been obtained by somebody else and no one's touched it yet. It's part of their results page, or an associate leaves a firm and they take the firm results and that's part of their result. Make sure that you're honest with your prospective audience about, what it is you're doing and what it is that's going on. And, the followership and all of that will come, in due time. And I'm a big believer of the 10,000 hours and the 10 years before you hit your stride. So be patient with yourself, but definitely, put out real, authentic content that is reflective of who you are in your life at any given point, Definitely. Work-life balance.
Oh, that's my favorite.
There is no fucking thing as work-life balance. But I was talking to another colleague the other day who made a good point. And he said, look, work is part of life. So this shit about work-life balance, like you shouldn't have to balance. If you don't like what you're doing, then you're not living, and life is part of work. And so you have to arrange a situation where, you are living while you're working and you're good with it. But for me, it just means mom guilt versus getting something done at the office. And it can be frustrating at times, but once you find your equilibrium and your happy place, then I think it could be amazing. But I want to hear your perspectives on that.
I'm huge on work-life balance, or rather emotional well-being of an attorney, right? Yeah. So to me, I didn't really have a choice. Like life kind of threw that on me. Literally, I left the firm I was working for, went solo in July 2015, got very, very sick, got diagnosed with autoimmune in September 2015, and had to take a step back for like 1 or 2 years and work really slowly at my firm until I got better. I got diagnosed better and everything. So, but what that taught me is, okay, all the money in the world, all the success in the world, none of that means anything if you don't have your health, if you're not going to be around to stick around to enjoy the times with your family, or if physically you're just feeling so horrible that you're in knee braces or whatever it is, and to the outside world, it doesn't look like anything other than you're lazy or something, because it, like, let's say lupus is like an invisible kind of a thing. So it taught me that, but I'm grateful for it because now I really enjoy my life. First of all, I enjoy the work I do. I love my clients. I'm so lucky that in 5 years, I have not had a single horrible client. Awesome. And I don't want to jinx that, but I love my clients. They're grateful for the work that I do for them. But on a typical week, I don't really work more than like 20 hours a week. I would say I have very productive. Those 20 hours, you cannot distract me. I'm doing everything, and it's usually at like 3 in the morning. That's when I work best. It's quiet in my house. And I get stuff done, I get shit done. And then the
I
rest
want
of
to
the
be you when
time,
I grow up. 20 hours a week.
Wait, did you say 20 hours you're working?
Right,
Or
I'm
20
like,
hours
what?
you're, girl, we need to talk after. I want to know what your magic is.
I want to be on that plan.
but here's the thing, I don't have kids, like you guys are super women, right? So I'm sure things will be changing, like when I have kids and I will need to like juggle a whole lot more, but for now, I'm, enjoying my best life.
That's
To the
awesome.
extent that I can.
That's awesome. I'm
You have
so
to.
proud of you. I really
you.
am so proud of you. And the physical challenges and the health issues that you've overcome, and you're still here, and you're shining, and you're amazing, and you're such a beacon of light in the female attorney community. And it's a
Thank
privilege
you.
to know you, honestly.
Thank you.
So work-life balance recovery. Look, when I put this program together, I've run a couple of these like female panels at the Brain SoCal program and other platforms. I got some shit for it. I'll tell you, I got some shit from male colleagues who are like, "Oh, do you want to alienate your male audience?" Or, the feminist movement is over. We're at the tail end of it. There's a female vice president, which is like such horseshit. I appreciate it and I get it, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. There's still, I feel, and I had to kind of be careful how I framed even my social media posts for today, because one of the things that I had mentioned was male dominant, and I was like, oh, people are getting their panties in a bunch. It is not male dominant. The future of law is female. We're graduating 55% women from law school, so maybe that's not the correct verbiage. But I remember 10 years ago, and I'll just give you one example of one aspect of the sexism in law. But 10 years ago, 15 years ago, longer than that. I just started like 18 years ago. I was at a deposition with an attorney whose name started with shoe and ended with maker. And it got contentious. And off the record, he said, "Honey, why don't you calm down? You can sit on my lap and relax and take a chill pill." And I was like, holy fuck, like what the hell, right? So we got back on the record. I just kind of composed myself, and on the record I said, "Counsel, respectfully, you just asked me to sit on your lap, and I'm going to ask you to conduct yourself professionally moving forward in this deposition. That's not appropriate." And he turned red. We got an apology letter after the fact. But I thought, and this is my naivety, that was mostly behind us, right? I thought that kind of stuff didn't so blatantly happen anymore in today's world. And I walked into my office 3 days ago. I've got 3 badass female attorneys. One of them used to be in the U.S. Army or Navy. I should know this well, but I don't. Air Force, the third one, right? And she's amazing, and she's badass, and she's strong, and she looked, really kind of shaken up. And I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "Look, I had this Zoom deposition with this attorney, and he just kept calling me honey and sweetie and telling me how much he likes me, and he's gonna go get more authority because he likes me so much, and he's never liked someone so much in the deposition, and he would offer me a job and sweetie and honey." And I just thought, you gotta fucking be kidding me. So I call this attorney, and he's a named partner at his firm. And I say to him, "Counsel, this is a courtesy call from one boss to another, but you made one of my attorneys feel really uncomfortable today. I don't know, if you're watching too much Mad Men, but you don't call people honey and sweetie. She's got a name." And so on and so forth. He was super apologetic, super kind. He said, "I'm sorry, ma'am. Please apologize to Miss So-and-so for me. I apologize to you. It's a force of habit." And I thought, how the fuck could it be a force of habit? Like, this is, 2021. So yes, I appreciate that we have a female VP, and I'm ecstatic, over the moon. I want to see a female president in my lifetime. And I appreciate that Jeannie Harrison is now the president of CALA. I love her. She's a dear friend of mine. But let's not forget the fact that she might be like the 5th female president out of like 70 years. And so, yes, there are a lot of female attorneys as members of the bar, but not all of them are making their way into the courtroom. Not all of them are being given the opportunities of their male counterparts. Not all of them are earning what their male counterparts are. And so my question to you ladies is, if we can't address it, because the overall response that I'm getting is, strong women don't talk about being strong women and discriminate against, they just be strong women. And so if you can't talk about the problem or address the problem, then how are you going to solve it? So what do we do to empower our audience, male or female, to put themselves in situations to be able to, change that, to change the inequity that exists between female and male lawyers without ruffling anyone's feathers.
At times sometimes it's okay to ruffle their feathers. Like if you are sitting in a room, and I've done this so many times over the course of the last 3 years in specific, and I don't know if it's happening more with me because I'm more confident and that's why I'm outspoken about it, because I wouldn't necessarily be as outspoken if I were to look back at myself 10 years ago in practice. But I think one thing that I'm noticing is that when inappropriateness does happen towards females in a room, whether that's in a deposition or a networking room of professionals, or a conference room with just friends, let's say colleagues talking, nobody speaks out. And it's one of my pet peeves. If you hear it, say something back, snap back, say it at that moment. Don't let the moment go by. I feel like by letting that moment go by, you're sanctioning that it's okay, and therefore reinforcing that habit that Mr. S, or whoever it was threw at you, right? That it's a force of habit because it's sanctioned. So if I'm sitting in a networking room and an inappropriate joke is made towards females, I don't smile, I don't laugh. At the very least, I don't react in a positive way to show that person that, yes, it was funny, because the general human reaction is to just laugh it off because it was so awkward, so that you don't make that person feel awkward. But F that. Why are we not making that person feel awkward? It's happened to me where there's been inappropriate comments made and I haven't laughed, and I've on purpose stink face towards that person, and they understood and they approached me afterwards and apologized. Or if the setting was appropriate enough, I have verbally made a comment towards, well, that was inappropriate. I don't think the ladies in the room would appreciate that as a joke. And they apologize in front of everybody, and we don't have that repeating in that same group thereafter.
I think don't mess with her.
I think like females, we're complicit in this force of habit that men have. If we are complicit and we stay silent when it happens, it will happen to the next female in the next room. So who gives a F if that person doesn't like you? At least they'll shape up for that next female that's coming in the next room that they're in. So I would say speak up and just,
Look, I mean, yes, but what do we do about the earning gap and the opportunity gap? And you look at these big prominent firms and there's a bunch of suits with one token pretty girl in the middle, and who may or may not be on partnership track. I want to give a shout out to Chris Dolan. He's amazing. He's one of my male colleagues that I think really goes above and beyond and gives females at his firm opportunities. And I really respect him for that. He celebrates them. He treats them really equally. And I love to see more of that. So what do we do to empower this new generation of females that are watching the show now to take steps to make sure that they bridge that gap even more during the tenure of their legal profession?
I think they have to be more outspoken, right? You have so many cases where, and we see so often, like I see in employment law, right? And not only in the legal field, but in so many fields, acts of sexism, sex discrimination, and sexual harassment. And you say, what happened? Like they come forward 3-4 years later because they've just been too scared of retaliation. And we need to be able to speak up for our rights. And it's so awkward to ask for a raise, right? Something like that. But if you're an associate and you're seeing that the male associates in your firm are getting so much more money than you, what's wrong with going in there and saying, like, it's not like you're begging for charity. It's work you're doing and you're on an equal level as them. And you say, this is what I'm bringing to the firm. This is what I have to offer. And this is what I would like. And I want to have a conversation with you instead of growing resentful and leaving your firm and doing, either solo or going somewhere else. Maybe you don't have to be so confrontational about it, but you do need to speak up when you see an injustice being done to you. And in certain situations, if it is sexual harassment or something so like gross, you need to speak up also for other people in the room.
Right. Michelle, your 2 cents.
I think mentorship, especially woman to woman mentorship, is huge to solve this because, even I have one mentee right now, and we were going through the process of practicing how to ask for a raise and the process of knowing her worth, and, not just have one conversation and just, okay, whatever happens, happens. They should know they need to give me a raise in 6 months or a year. That shit's not going to happen. And I left, my first job because of this very reason. I kept asking every 6 months, like, hey, you promised me a raise, again and again and again. And there was never any money for me, coincidentally. So it's about really having a strong community of women to turn to and say, okay, kind of what am I worth here, based on my skills, my experience, and my potential. And, have these women to kind of back you up, and knowing when to walk away. If you've got a good team, a good firm, obviously try to work it out. But if they're not going to see your worth and pay you your worth, you need to move on.
Right. It's well said. Well said. We were in a group chat together the other day, and this is probably the only panel I've done where we had no prep, and the ladies were like, what are you going to ask us? I told you, I'm not going to tell you because I want it to be authentic. I want it to be non-rehearsed. But you mentioned something in the group chat that resonated that I wasn't familiar with, but certainly I suffer from at times. I think we all do, if we're being honest. What is imposter syndrome?
So imposter syndrome is basically something that plagues, really high potential, very powerful, professional people, because, we see ourselves a lot differently than the world sees us. We think that we're kind of perpetrating a fraud, that we're too good to be true. And, you look at yourself and, especially if you're humble and don't have this huge ego, it's hard to really accept the successes that are coming to you. And so you're always kind of second guessing, okay, am I really all of that? Am I really, this accomplished and talented? And it's really hard for, especially individuals that try to be perfect, these type A attorneys, it's most of us, we want to be in control. We want to be perfect all the time. And that's unattainable. It's never going to happen. And so because we're not reaching that perfect standard, we look at ourselves as, failures or frauds sometimes, when in fact, it's really not true. And it's really hard to combat that. And it takes a lot of, self-talk. You need to be intentional with how you're speaking to yourself, because that's where it really starts. Who gives a fuck what everyone else thinks? If you think you're worth it, if you think you're talented, if you think you have something to bring to this world, that's really all that matters.
Right. That was so well said. I mean, I have to tell you, we got to look at, and I put you on the spot, so I appreciate you for that. But we got to look at the causes, right? I think part of it you hit on the head. We're overachieving by nature, which is why we're here. We're people pleasing by nature, which is why we crave affirmation of others, right? And we, like you said, if we believe it's like too good to be true, and so we suffer from this. And I used to do affirmations before affirmations were a thing. I remember like 10 years ago being in a depot, in Malibu. It was this beautiful office. Certain memories are like ingrained, and it was like this big panoramic view of the ocean. And I walk in to cover a civil PI depot for a colleague of mine who handled the PI component of the catastrophic work comp claim, which I had. And there was 11 male attorneys, 11 of them representing various defendants. And I was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't brush up on my evidentiary objections. What is going to happen right now, right? And so I literally went to the restroom and I was like, you are capable. You've got this, and like this positive self-talk. And it's so important and it's effective. And like meditation, if you make it part of your daily practice, it can really help you with your confidence. Because if you say it enough and you're rebuilding those neurotransmitters in your brain, you're going to start believing it. That's the first thing. I think the second thing is you do more of what it is we all try to do, which is mentor others, philanthropy, do good. So you feel good, and it helps build your self-confidence, not in a superficial way because someone tells you you're great, but because on the inside you feel good about what it is that you're doing. And so that manifests and sort of not emotes, but exudes out of you, right? And so this imposter syndrome, I was really surprised to hear that it is a syndrome, because I feel very insecure once in a while, and about, I've had a tremendous amount of success, knock on wood. I had a record year this year. And so part of it, I think, is internal, right? And you're second guessing yourself, but part of it, I think, is because of the environment we're in, right? And the rat race we're in and all the bullying that happens and is not talked about in the legal profession. I mean, you were mentioning the other day that, you know, someone had gone to all of your contacts on IG and like tried to follow them and message them and, you know, befriend them. And like this craziness that kind of happens, I think really stirs this up even more, right? I had an experience in March, but I want to hear your perspectives first on what do we do about imposter syndrome? How do we best combat it? And how do we recognize it if it's happening in the first place?
I think it's tough. I think the environment has a lot to do with it. And I get imposter syndrome quite often when I try to push my mediation practice, for example, because it's a field that's so full of retired judges and gray-haired Caucasian males, right? And so if you're not in that category, you are not taken seriously. And I have a master's in mediation. I have had it since the same time I had my JD because I knew this is like my passion, like this is what I want to do. And every time I go into do a mediation consulting or go in on somebody else's behalf, I always land on a number. It always settles on that number. Like I know my skills, I know I'm good. But then when I'm out in the real world and people are you part of ADR? Are you at JAMS? Are you at Signature? You just start feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe no one's gonna take me seriously. And I don't know how to combat it.
Some of the best mediators I've been before are not, you know, necessarily with one of those agencies. And I will tell you, just from being your friend and watching you, you have a very mild and thoughtful temperament, which is exactly what you need as a mediator. It's more, you know, listening, less output. You are and very analytical and great at problem solving. I've called you a couple of times when there's been an issue and you've broken it down perfectly. I think you should put yourself out there and do it because you would be amazing at it.
Thank you.
But Armina, you're the adult in the bunch.
Yeah,
what
tell us
say
what to
you?
do, Armina. What to do.
Okay, so here's my theory on this. And it was weird because I hadn't heard that word officially until our chat. And then I looked at the link that you guys sent so I could figure out what is this? I've never heard of this. And then I was like, okay, great. No, I've had it. I was like, oh, okay, I've had that feeling before. I think with social media, which is what causes this, right? It's your projection of yourself to the public. And if you rely solely on the public's response to build your confidence, you will eventually end up experiencing imposter syndrome. If you are not hearing people's compliments outside of social media to you, so if you have a client that's saying, great job, I love what you did with my case, I'm so happy with the results, we tend not to recognize it at the same level that we would recognize a comment complimenting something that you posted on IG by a stranger. I think these two compliments have different weight, and for some reason, the human mind puts more weight on social media response versus in human response. I don't know if it's because it's in writing and you're reading it versus it's just spoken in that moment and it disappears. You go back to that positive comment multiple times, probably. You look at the number of comments you got on something or the number of likes versus in real life, you can't quantify how many of your clients like you and how many people you benefited. So I think at a certain point and periodically, like Tina said, with affirmations, you have to take a step back and say, okay, I know that I've received all these accolades or whatever from the social media world, but I want to step back and recognize, what have I done to benefit my clients? What compliments have I received from my clients? Who have I benefited? And I think it would help to write down what your clients tell you or what you hear in the real world in person. And to do the same thing you do with social media, go back to it over and over again. So not only create your own affirmations that you tell yourself, but write down the affirmations that you're receiving from other people that are spoken to you and reacquaint yourself with that periodically. And I think
what's the difference you're making in the world? I do a variation of that. But for me, it's to combat the bullying and the negative feelings that come from that. I get probably 10 DMs a day from, maybe not 10 DMs a day, maybe like 5 DMs a day from like law students and people I don't know, just saying really kind things. And so I will sometimes take a screenshot because someone took time out of their day to write me this long paragraph about how I made an impact, or, you know, maybe encourage them in their life, right? And so I save them, and on days that I'm feeling particularly low, like, you know, I'll go back and I'll read them, and I will force myself to focus on the positivity and on the light as opposed to the shade that's thrown my way. Which, by the way, you know, I didn't realize until this year uh, how much bullying there was in the legal profession. Because as long as you fly under the radar, everyone's great and everyone wants to be your friend, and it's all great and dandy. But once you're on the radar and once you start doing really well, I don't know if it's because you're perceived as a threat. I don't know if it's because people just don't like to see people shine brighter than, but the claws really come out, you know?
Mhm.
And so I experienced that in March of 2020. I had a record month. I had, you know, I settled like $35 million worth of cases in 1 month before COVID, before courts closed, like the day before we went in and got court approval. And so we posted those results, you know, because I don't really market or advertise, and whatever I do through my social media, you know, based on the performance of the firm. And so I got calls and texts and messages from, you know, friends under the guise of, oh, we're, you know, concerned for you. Some of them authentic. Some of them just dropped off and, like, you know, iced me out and wouldn't talk to me anymore. But we're talking behind my back about how insensitive that was for me to do that during COVID. And I thought, but you were just high-fiving your buddy for, like, you know, his mid 7-8 figure settlement. How is that different than this? And they couldn't really answer that. I don't know if it was a male female thing. I'm not quite sure what happened there. I just know that it felt really shitty. And so, you know, I was down about it for quite some time, and it kind of made me sort of reassess. And then I said, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to focus on the positivity. There's a lot of Karine, you know, Karine throws positive vibes my way all the time. And I love her and I appreciate her. And we do that for one another. We build each other up. And so I've chosen to, you know, make an affirmative effort to focus more on that, and to just be okay with the fact that certain people don't deserve to be in my life. And, you know, if they don't want to see me do well, and if we can't have a reciprocal and kind, like, friendship and, you know, colleague relationship, then there's no room for them in my life. But I love the affirmations, and I love the, you know, screenshotting or, you know, journaling, just the difference that you've made in the world and how you feel like you've impacted somebody else. And the philanthropy is part of that too. You know, if you feel like, you know, you're generous with your time, you're generous with your money for causes that you really believe in, I think that is, you know, feels good. It's just a huge confidence builder, but it also feels good. You know, because I struggled with, you know, I'm a first generation kid, and it was really tough when we moved out here. I mean, financially, it was, you know, I grew up poor here in the States, and it was difficult. And so it is difficult for me sometimes to really fully appreciate the fruits of my labor, not feel guilty about it, right? Like, what right do I have availing myself of all of this amazingness? I'm just like some, you know, immigrant kid. And so I think the philanthropy and the good deeds really help me, you know, kind of balance that out a little bit more. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense to me. I'm an immigrant too. I came when I was 11, and I lived in Armenia through, you know, the collapse of the of the Soviet Union, where there was then no water, no electricity, no heat for a couple of years. And so I think it teaches you not to take things for granted, but you do have that certain level of, you know, let's say, you know, I try to do a lot of philanthropy when I can. I sponsor kids in countries overseas, and it's been one of the most I don't know, heartwarming experiences of my life. If anybody ever wants to talk about that process, I'm happy to talk to them about it and connect them with trusted people. But at the same time, let's say I have like my shoe thing, right? Like, I love shoes, and I will let times go and buy like a couple of pairs of really outrageous shoes, and then I feel the guilt of like,
I want to support, you know, I want to just support that habit and say, good for you, you deserve it. All about the obnoxious purchases.
But what I wanted to add, first of all, I think Armina, like, that's genius to do the write it down and do the affirmations. And I would also add, like, it feels really good to give back, right? To be kind to somebody. So also, like, when you're noticing somebody else doing something, Tina got a great settlement. Armina put on a great video, Michelle did an amazing reel, whatever it is. What's wrong with taking a shot of that and sharing it on your social media and saying, oh my God, check this boss lady out, amazing. Or just directly messaging them and saying, I'm so proud of what it is you're doing, because you could be making somebody's day. I'm not saying like do that to random, like people, it has to be authentic, obviously, but what's wrong with doing that?
You're amazing for it. Nothing. I think people just need to understand that despite the rat race you see displayed on social media, and it is disgusting, there is enough room for all of you in this profession, and you are not going to dim your shine by shedding light on somebody else's business.
Yes.
You know. So I think you that was a really good illustration of that. We talked about, is there bill? Okay. All right. So look, I wanted to talk about some current events that are happening. Some of them are easier to talk about, some of them are harder to talk about. These ladies are looking to us for some real advice. We talked about building, starting your own practice. Do you want to be the jack of all trades or the master of one? I clerked for Judge Trevisian in law school, and the most valuable piece of practical advice he gave me was, don't be greedy, kids, specialize so you don't get sued. And so I've really taken that to heart, and I put my clients' interests first, and I do what I know, and I do what I'm good at. And I avoid conflict situations. I've seen a lot of advertising recently, for example, if you've got a catastrophic injury on the job, come to us, we'll do the workers' comp, but we'll also do the civil against the third party. And, it's hairy, right? And it's a gray area of whether or not you can really represent your client's best interest and wear both of those hats when you're getting 40% attorney fee on one side and 15% on the other. It's questionable, really. And can that brain injured individual waive that potential conflict? That's one. Another is you see these folks go hang up a shingle, it's them in their WeWork space, and perhaps an assistant if they're lucky, but they're advertising everything from lemon law to sexual discrimination to criminal defense and it's just kind of like, I have to cringe a little. So I want to hear your thoughts on how to stay out of trouble and keep your nose clean and specialize. And if you want to specialize, how to take steps to make sure that you are the master of your craft.
I'll start because I'm pretty niche. So for the first several years of my practice, all you knew me as was the debt fairy, just like debt relief, bankruptcy, and debt settlement. I've always had an employment background. I purposely was doing a whole lot of ghostwriting and working with other people and helping them on their employment cases, but not marketing that because I wanted to establish myself as a bankruptcy attorney, be in that field long enough where people trust me, where I have a solid base. And now I'm at that point where I feel like, okay, I can also advertise one additional practice area, but you have to really put your heart in it and that's why I'm so open to mentoring a lot of attorneys who are considering bankruptcy law, because I'd rather you get a mentor and you do it right than you be the jack of all trades and you do so many different practice areas, because you are messing with people's lives, first of all. And you're messing with your own because you're opening up yourself to malpractice. So niche it down and then get as many mentors in that field as you can. Go to all the networking events or the webinars, like for bankruptcy, for example, NACBA is a great one. And I have at least 8 really amazing bankruptcy attorney friends. I don't view them as competition. We always brainstorm in a little like group chat we have going on Facebook. I've had them over to my house for mixers. I send them cases that I don't handle. They send me cases that they don't handle. Make friends with people in your field. They're not your competition. They can be really valuable assets to you.
Collaboration over competition all day. It's really good advice. Michelle, you are, I'm really proud of you because you set up your practice a year ago and you were wise enough to know this and you really narrowed your practice area down. And I want to get your thoughts on this because I'm sure you've got colleagues that are doing it differently.
Yeah, so the way I like to think of it is drawing a parallel to the medical industry. When you need heart surgery, are you going to go to your general practitioner or are you going to go to a heart surgeon? Same thing for law. When you have a lemon law problem, are you going to go to a firm that practices door law, everything that comes through the door, or are you going to go for the specialist? And so I think that has been probably the best, piece of advice I've ever gotten is, find your niche, specialize, and be the best at that one thing. You don't need to spread yourself too thin and just be average at a lot of different things. You're not doing your clients a service, and you're kind of wasting your own time. Go into something and, go big.
That's really good advice.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I totally agree too. Look, one, we are officers of the court. We have licenses, we are answerable, and I feel like sometimes people forget that, our colleagues forget that. And I was good friends with Tom Girardi, and I'm heartbroken to see what has happened to him and his legacy. And on another episode, I'm going to have one of his associates who's really close to him and worked at his firm come and shed light on what it is that happened there, because the legal community, the exception of the comments on the Cal listserv, has been radio silent about it, and I understand why. He's an icon, he paved the way for so many of us, but that doesn't excuse all the shit that we're seeing unfold right now. And so my perspective is, what can we learn from that? We're going to delve into it in another episode, but it is really important for people watching this podcast today, if you're new, if you're a law student, to know that, it is important to keep your nose clean and preserve, your reputation is really all you have, and the goodwill of your practice is all you have at the end of the day, and you can't just take it lightly. So, I can't tell you how many times I've, seen new attorneys out of law school without the requisite experience or contacts, hang up a shingle, and they'll say, oh, we'll just hook up with a couple of auto repair shops and whatever. And I know it's very prevalent, and I know that I'm gonna get darts thrown at me for this later, but that is capping. That is not okay. And the state bar is going to come down on that, I feel. And so my understanding is that they've been hiring more auditors, more officers to be able to really crack down on some of these unsavory practices, but really, try to do things on the up and up, and understand that you're not in it to make a quick buck or two for a year or two and then you're gone. You really have to be able to sustain yourself and think long-term and longevity, and learn from our predecessors' mistakes. And so, I don't know, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on it. I think it's important, because I think a lot of attorneys that I speak to don't even realize that some of these practices are questionable, and they just are really banking on that when they're setting up shop.
You know what? It's funny you're bringing that up, because there was a conversation about this in the LA Attorney Network the other day on the Facebook group. A fellow attorney, she had posted something, and she said, I'm so disgusted right now. My husband, or it was somebody very close to her, unfortunately was in a very bad accident and was in the hospital. And she's like, I've gotten at least a dozen phone calls and like things being sent to the hospital and stuff. How do people know about this? And it's because there are nurses and doctors and whoever it is capping, right? And it's disgusting.
I had a client capped because an investigator who is married to a divorce lawyer who moonlighted as a swimsuit model bought some records from a hospital in Orange County and sent my client a fruit basket, offered them $10,000 in cash. They kept saying no. They kept tabs on my client when he was transferred from the hospital in Orange County to a neuro rehab facility in Pomona, and just randomly showed up in Pomona one day and in Spanish said, I'm here to see so-and-so, I'm his amigo. And the case manager then, I had alerted the facility and kind of put him under password protection, realized like what's going on, and immediately called me, and I said, no, that is not his amigo, don't, and my guy's got a brain injury, you know what I mean? And so this kind of predatory, hi son, we're on TV, don't tell me if you pooped, close the door, mommy's on air, okay?
Mommy, where's the food?
Talk to daddy. Okay.
Mom life.
Mom life. Hashtag mom life. But this kind of thing happens all the time. And so how do you deal with it? Does it happen in your practice or not as much as it does in PI and SOM?
and not in that field. It does happen in the bankruptcy world, where what will happen is there will be firms that I guess check civil court records. So anytime there's a collection lawsuit filed, they will send a letter to the prospective client saying, hey, we heard you got sued, want to file bankruptcy, or do you need that defense? And I don't really know if that's kosher, like, and then they call me and they say, I just got sued, what do I do? And we do that, but I haven't had to deal with what you're describing.
Right. I mean, maybe I'm too conservative with that, and maybe I need to brush up on my solicitation.
No, it definitely happens.
But I would rather err on the side of being quiet, and I just want to encourage you to do it the right way, and there is room. So you go to these networking events, you train yourself, you educate yourself beyond law school, you attend the webinars, get certifications, you do what it takes, and you get a result or two of your own, and you market that. And there's the 3 contact. So you contact someone first time at now a Zoom webinar, and then you follow up, like she said, and you follow up again, and build those relationships and shore up your referral sources so that you don't have to resort to things that can get you in trouble. That's sort of my 2 cents, but I want to hear from the adult in the group. Armine?
I have so much to add to this because I think for estate planning, I see this in estate planning a lot. First of all, I think if you're practicing, it's definitely best to have a subspecialty even, because I don't know how anyone, for example, can practice in the world of estate planning and not and actually do other things. I barely have time to keep up with the changes in the law, and estate planning is all I do. It's all I've done for the past 10 years. So I don't even know how someone's able to do family law, estate planning, PI, and like workers' comp and all of that. So I think specializing in a practice, you're eliminating your own personal liability from the future, especially with estate planning, especially if you're younger, because you're going to be around when that person dies, and they will come after you for the mistakes that you've made. But a piece of advice that I wish to bestow upon everyone, I think when you're a new attorney and you're practicing, or if you're practicing on your own, a lot of times when a client approaches you and something is not kosher, something doesn't smell right, or if it's an area of the law or a subspecialty within your area that you're not familiar with and you've never done it before, it's okay to say no. It's okay to not take that client. Just because you've hung up a shingle and you're out there, someone comes to you doesn't mean you have to help them. I think a lot of times we think we have to help everyone that comes our way. But I think it's okay to recognize that, what, your intuition's telling you no, say no. Or if you just don't know that area of the law, like Tina said, get a network of attorneys, refer it out, ask for a referral fee. Don't take the liability of making a mistake on that. And you cannot learn fast enough to help that person. But now you don't know that area, and you're getting clients. So go back and learn, so that when the next one comes, you can help them. I think for one of the things that I've experienced a lot is estate planning attorneys that are referring. And by the way, I get more of my referrals from other planning attorneys than any other attorney type. So I'm all for networking within your industry. There's always enough business to go around. But I think, for me in this industry, we have referrals that come from attorneys that drafted the documents, but that don't know how to administer it, which is a tall tale sign that they don't know what they're drafting. So that's what I see a lot. And I'm always cautious, and I'll contact the person and say, hey, you probably shouldn't be drafting anymore. And I've had this experience with, a family friend who also did estate planning, for example. She called me up to ask me some questions about a trust that she drafted for a family member. And I said, what kind of a trust is it? And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, what's the structure? And she's like, I didn't realize that there was different types of trusts. And I'm just like, so after that conversation, by the end of it, she said, you know what? I think I'm going to stop taking these and just send them your way. I'm like, please, I'll send you the referral fee. You'll make the money without having to put in the work, and it'll be stress-free for you. So I think it's okay not to take a case. It's always okay to say no, and then go back and brush up and, study for it, sit for the specialization exam, do whatever you need to do to learn it.
Yeah, if you're Middle Eastern or Armenian, if you're not saying no or saying yes is a problem, because your family members are going to call you for everything and anything under the sun, and you cannot do everything and anything under the sun. we refer out 95% or so of what comes through the door, and most of my referrals come from other PI attorneys and other workers' comp attorneys as well, who just are wonderful, but they've got gigantic caseloads and don't really care to deal with the medicine, of brain injury, which is pretty complex. As we're sitting here talking, I got a text from my buddy Mike Cosaruni, who I love out in OC. Shout out to the Cosaruni brothers. Hi. Who helped me file that pro bono lawsuit against Goldchin for fraudulently mislabeling what we are alleging is fraudulently mislabeling their goods, and that's still ongoing. But Mike brought up a really good question that I wasn't wanting to discuss, but I think it's really on point, and we should. Massey, sorry, not Mike. I love all the brothers. Would love a discussion in California agenda to allow non-lawyers to have a stake in law practices. I hate this. California, if you're listening, you're insane. That's like, okay, no, they don't allow dentists to do this. Why the hell would you allow attorneys to do this? We are dealing with life-saving, life-changing, very delicate issues, and the only leash you have on us is our state bar license. And there's colleagues already doing shady shit. So once that goes down the drain and every Joe Schmo can come and practice law, consumers are going to be fucked because, there's going to be mistakes left and right and no responsibility and no one to answer for it. And so I think it's a nightmare, but I want to hear your thoughts.
I'm with you. And I think my industry is going to be impacted the most because we already have non-attorneys preparing documents as scriveners and not pretending not to give legal advice in the estate planning field. And even if it's just a simple will, I end up correcting the mistakes down the line. So I'm concerned about it from an ethical standpoint, that it's going to basically lower the ethical standard and we're going to have so many mistakes being made. From a financial standpoint, I'm okay with it because it just means more money for me because I'm going to have to correct things down the line on the mistakes that they made. But really ethically, I think I don't even know what the state of California is thinking, bringing non-professionals. Yeah.
The vultures are circling. I mean, and it's, look, I am in a highly specialized field of law. I go above and beyond for these work comp lawyers, and my attorney's fees are already capped on the workers' comp side at 15%, right? And so if you've got all the cases, are eventually going to be 15 or 20%, because you're going to be competing with Amazon Law. What the fuck kind of service are you going to provide someone who's really jacked up for that kind of margin? You just can't compete. You cannot compete, and there's going to be, you're going to lower the ethical standard, but at what cost? I mean, I think California's looking at it, their attorneys make enough money if we hit them a little bit, no big deal. But this isn't about us. This is about the consumers. There's more of them than there are of us. And if they get fucked, there's no one to pick up that slack. I'm going to be fine. I've got savings. We're all going to be fine. We do very well in our fields. But, at the end of the day, it's about consumers getting screwed and no one to answer for it and no real repercussions for it, because it's not like, you can hold someone's license over their head or anything. You can literally have any Joe Schmo come and hang up a shingle. You can have Amazon Law, I'm just using a generic term. I have to give a disclaimer here that there is no Amazon Law, but it is just really mind-boggling and concerning, particularly, in your area of law, I definitely see it, but in my area of law, you've got, folks that are really cognitively compromised and, think about the types of people who are doing these kinds of jobs, like the heavy laborers and stuff. They're not particularly educated or premorbidly, educated to begin with. And you can see kind of like the vultures with no vetting process and no responsibility, being, it just honestly, it sickens me. I don't know what the state of California is thinking. And I know other states have already done it, but if I'm not mistaken, I can think of one right now that has, but I think it would just be a nightmare. In your case, you can still fix it and undo it and fix these mistakes that occur. But for us, these are, life-saving, potentially life-changing, situations. And if you fuck that up, good luck undoing it. There is no undoing that, And so I want to hear your thoughts because I feel like now I'm rambling, so I'm pissed. Thanks, Massey.
If anyone is looking for a subspecialty area, malpractice might be a good area to start looking into.
I agree, and I was gonna bring that up too, that sometimes it's too late to fix it. So there are a lot of bankruptcy petition preparers. They're allowed to prepare bankruptcy petitions. They're not allowed to charge you more than $200. They, of course, always charge you more than $200
Right.
and coach you to say you only pay $200. They target Spanish-speaking populations, Filipino-speaking populations, Vietnamese, whatever. They target populations that don't know. They think that they're actually going to an attorney most of the time. And if they call me and they say, somebody filed my case, and now the trustee is trying to sell my house, and I want to dismiss my case, you can't voluntarily dismiss your case. And so the trustee is either going to sell your house or force you into a settlement agreement. Like, and there's nothing we can do to undo it.
That sounds like Chinese to me, but it sounds horrific. Like whatever she's talking about sounds really
Yeah,
bad.
people lose their assets. People lose so many valuable things, and it's a huge, they shouldn't even be allowing what's currently allowed.
Look.
Immigration, estate planning, and bankruptcy, I think, are the biggest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to inundate the litigation, like the court system, with more cases. The judges are going to have to be okay with, I didn't know it was done by a non-attorney. There's got to be some sort of cause of action that comes about as a result of this, where there is a loophole for you to fix those types of cases. But
I mean, look,
there isn't.
There isn't. I come in as a second and third attorney oftentimes on these catastrophic cases when another attorney's already like dropped the ball or undercut it because they didn't realize, brain injuries are, like our autoimmune issues are by and large invisible. You can't see them, right? And so I'll give you an example. I had a guy come to me and I met him in volume 2 of his deposition, like the day after I took his case, and he had narcolepsy as a result of his brain injury, and he was like sleeping and going in and out of consciousness during my prep. So I got a petition at Posh volume 2. I don't even know how the fuck volume 1 happened, but there was an offer, rather a demand from my predecessor to settle that guy's case for $150,000, okay? We worked it up, later settled it for mid 7 figures. We saved his ass from malpractice suit, right? But imagine if I didn't do that. And if someone took a second look at that guy's work after this poor guy ended up on the street, you at least have the recourse of going after his malpractice insurance and making sure he doesn't do that to someone else down the road. What the fuck are you gonna do when some corporation does that and there's no one to hold responsible,
Yeah. And I'm pretty certain they're gonna put something in their corporate retainer agreements that prevents it or caps it at a liquidated X amount damage. So I'm sure there's gonna be some sort of cap on that as well, which means they're even more shit out of luck.
Right.
And for sure an arbitration agreement though.
Yeah, they'll throw that in there too. I mean, look, for those of us who do high value cases, like I increase my malpractice insurance every year, like as soon because they make you wait 3 years and we can increase it incrementally. Like we always go to the max just to be on the safe side. I cannot imagine these folks wanting to come and swim in a sea of, catastrophic injury, don't know what the fuck they're doing, don't have a law license, are going to have that assurance and protection for the consumer. I can't imagine that. Michelle, you want to chime in on this before I ask you my last question?
I mean, I just feel like the legal industry, California is trying to dilute it. We've got, Amazon law coming up, but we're also, lowering the scores of bar exams. We're taking it from a 3-day to a 2-day. And honestly, I feel too young to, feel this salty about it. Back in my day, it was, 3 days and you had to sell your soul to pass. It's just, it's a whole new world right now. And it's really just, we need to be on alert here because, our industry is under attack and, we've got to put up a fight here.
Yeah, boo-hoo to the ones who got to take the bar exam from the comfort of their own bed and that were still bitching about it. I got to take it in an auditorium with people puking next to me. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, but no, I hear you for sure. With all due respect, everyone's got a license. I have a lot of respect and reverence for this profession, and there's room for all of us, and I welcome them. And, we've all been through law school, and we've been through the bar exam and the law school process of teaching you how to think analytically and everything that comes with it. And, the moral turpitude exam and having the fear of having a license or the responsibility rather and privilege of having a license, and to eliminate that altogether is just like really mind-boggling to me. But enough about that, because we can go on forever about that. I usually ask for a last pearl of wisdom, but I think I'm going to make it a little more specific and more interesting today. So I want you to tell us, we've got 10 minutes left, what was a big challenge or sliding doors moment that has come up for you in your life as it relates to the practice of law? And if you knew then what you know now, how would you approach that situation differently?
You're putting us on the spot here.
Sorry. Armine?
I think I'm going to go back to the statement I made earlier. Like, you don't have to effing help everybody. So if somebody comes to you and you don't like them, or something does not smell right to you, something is off, it's okay to say no and reject that matter. You can say no. I wish I knew that in the past, and I did it more in the past. Sometimes you're pressured to help everyone, or you're assuming that just because you're advertising this service that you have to provide it to everybody that wants it and is willing to pay your fee. So I would pretty much help most people that came my way, with the exception of one kooky person that I have ever said, get the F out of my office to. I would help most people that come my way, whereas now I'm a little bit more selective. If something is off with the story they're telling me, or I suspect something, or they're not being honest with me, or they're not nice to my staff, I won't take them, and that's okay. So I wish I did a lot more of that in the past, not feel obligated to provide services to everybody that comes my way.
Okay.
I'm gonna piggyback off of that too, because I get a lot of calls for very, very shady bankruptcies. Where it's very obvious that this was a planned out thing, and I don't take them. But then you start getting this pushback from them, of, oh, well, aren't you can't handle this, you're not equipped to handle this. And I was like, no, I am handled. I am equipped to handle this. I don't want to be involved in anything fraud related, first of all. Second, I don't ever want to be under the radar of a U.S. attorney or a U.S. DOJ investigation, because that is going to impact every other client I have after you. So whatever fee it is that you're willing to pay me to do this is not worth it to me. That's one thing. And the second thing, I wish I knew that I could have gone solo earlier. And I'm not even coming from a law firm where it was bad. I loved my bosses. They're great mentors. I still love them. But the amount of happiness I feel as a solo, and the amount of confidence I've gotten as a solo, and just like the ability to love what you do and do it exactly the way you want to do it, I wish I knew that that was an option to go solo earlier.
Okay, so your pearl, Armine, would be say no more. Your pearl would be do what makes you happy, and keep your nose clean. If you smell something's fraudulent, don't do it. I've got one, but Michelle, you go first.
So mine's probably, know your worth. Early on in my career, I let a lot of clients, judges, opposing counsel, even colleagues talk to me in a way that, I cringe thinking about now, like, how dare they say stuff like that to me? And I just took it, I was scared. I was a new attorney, and a lot of these situations happened when I was alone, or, I was, the only attorney in the room, being ambushed by, the DA's office and the judge. That's so unacceptable. And thinking back, I would never put up with that shit today. So it's really about knowing, you have the ability to stand up for yourself, and, we all go through this disrespect. So, you've got a community of women that we get it. We've all been through it. And it's just a matter of, you're the first step. You need to stand up for yourself before you can stand up for others.
So yours, I love. Yours would be assert yourself. The more you assert yourself, the more comfortable you will feel asserting yourself. Can I stop the chatter there? Because it's really messing up my sheet here. But so yeah, assert yourself and stand up for yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. And And it takes a certain amount of time and a certain amount of confidence and doing it a few times and, you know, to be able to feel the ability to kind of hold your ground a little bit, feel your presence. I remember I was invited to this quick last story, I promise. Solmeyer Cupid's Stanley party, my first year out of law school. And I walk in and I had on like a skirt suit. I was feeling really cute. And I see like this sea of black suits of wasps. And I was like, holy shit. I turn around, I walk right back out. Thankfully, one of my now Armenian bar colleagues grabbed my hand and took me around the room and like made introductions and stuff. But I remember how out of place and uncomfortable in my own skin I felt back there, you know, and it's taken 10, 15 years of practice and, you know, and success to be able to shed that. And I feel like I wish I would have done it sooner. So I'm completely with you. That is a really good bit of advice for our newer attorneys today. Assert yourself sooner. Mine would be to be yourself and dance to the beat of your own drum. Fuck the bullies, fuck the opinions, do what makes you happy. And, you know, if that's viewed as eccentric or not lawyerly or not ladylike or not appropriate, don't give a fuck about it. Do what you do and it'll resonate with the people that matter the most and you'll be fine. Dance to the beat of your own drum. Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. I am a little loopy and tipsy. I felt the room spinning a little bit. I felt a little bit of vertigo-like symptoms earlier. This is more than I've drank my entire life. Thank you so much, ladies. Before we close, anything you want to add?
No, I think we covered everything today.
Yeah,
I think
we
we
covered
did.
a lot of stuff, and thank you for having this platform. I think it's amazing. I'm so excited for where it's going to take you. I think this went really, really well. And Armina and Michelle, thank you for you know, being amazing people to be around, for all the knowledge that you share, for everything that you do. I salute you.
You guys are amazing, all three of you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy that you agreed to come on. I've got some fun episodes planned. We've got the Girardi episode, which I'm, you know, mixed feelings about. But we've got a fun episode where Arsha Mampur is going to DJ for us.
Yeah.
And like a happy hour. So that's going to be
I'm going to be somewhere hiding in the background now.
There may be a gossip lawyer episode for those of you following that Instagram account. So I'm really looking forward to it. But I'm big on female empowerment. And so I thought it was befitting that the first episode has three of my favorite powerhouse female colleagues on here. I'm so proud of all of you. I think you've shared some amazing pearls of wisdom. Hopefully we've inspired and empowered you. You all have my IG account and my cell number. You can feel free to hit me up anytime. If I don't respond, don't hold it against me. I get inundated sometimes, but I think we're all here for you. We're all here for you. And thank you to my three beautiful guests for being a part of it. I really appreciate you guys. I'm proud of you. I'm proud to call you my colleagues and friends. And thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing week. And I will drop more information about upcoming episodes. Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers, girls.
Cheers.
Cheers, baby. Thank you.